What's My Line? Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who give you the widest choice of cereals in the whole wide world. All the great grains in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, our delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now a gentleman flushed with the victory that he richly deserves as Best Actor of the Year. He received the Film Critics Award for his performance in Separate Tables, the charming Mr. David Niven.
Well, this show has been on the air for almost 10 years, and that, to my rather limited mathematics, means that all the usual denizens of the panel have now been introduced over 500 times. And it's beyond my rather limited intelligence to think of anything new or fresh to say about anything, or any of them hasn't already been said, so it just gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce once more the brilliant and talented Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
And it's a great pleasure, and at the same time, it's a little bit sad to introduce our next panelist because he's taking off for Tennessee and Georgia on a lecture tour, and then a vacation in Florida and Jamaica, and we're going to miss him terribly. Bennett, Cerf.
Well, I'm going to miss you all. That includes the audience, and I'm even going to miss our panel moderator, who's coming in here now, John Charles Daly.
Well, we will all miss the ubiquitous Mr. Cerf as he goes off. Perhaps we'll all have a panel show which will come into demise before he returns, but we'll try to keep it going till he gets back. Meanwhile, I didn't mean that, really. That was a police siren that was all about. Well, we have some very interesting guests and some interesting occupations tonight. The occupations and the guests here, as usual, to see if we can't stump the panel. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the show. We'll meet our first challenger after this work. And now, panel, to your arduous task, and I would advise you to be prudent this evening. Will our first challenger come in and sign in, please?
There we got those leaky old buildings again. Honey Ray, is that right? Is it Miss or Mrs. Ray?
Mrs.
Mrs. Ray. The building is now sealed. And where are you from, Mrs. Ray?
Toronto.
Toronto, Canada? Well, how nice to have somebody from our neighbor to the north here. Mrs. Ray, may I present the panel? Panel, Mrs. Ray, will you join me over here, please? Coming from Canada, I know that you have reasonable access to What's My Line by television up there. Do you know how we keep score?
Yes, I do.
Fine, then let's let everybody in the audience and the folks who are looking in at home know exactly what your line is. All right, now, panel, Mrs. Ray is self-employed, and let's begin the general questioning, since you're going to have a long rest, Bennett, with Bennett Cerf.
Mrs. Ray, I'd better tell the audience who haven't got color sets that you have flaming red hair. It's quite beautiful, too.
Thank you.
Is the fact that you have red hair and are so personable, does that play any part whatever in the work that you do?
No.
Small conference. I was hoping for this anyway. Mrs. Ray feels that in the interests of fairness, even though we do consider that perhaps the answer is correct, that in the interest of fairness, we'll modify it and say that you get an affirmative reply.
Well, would that possibly mean, Mrs. Ray, thank you very much for your indulgence, would that mean that you are either in the entertainment business or that you exhibit or model something?
Yes.
May I eliminate the entertainment business?
No.
No. That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you a performer in the entertainment business?
Yes.
Yourself? Do you appear on a stage?
Yes.
Do you say anything in your performance, rather than just dance or juggle?
Sometimes.
Here, I think, again, to be fair, Miss Arlene, it is certainly reasonable that Mrs. Ray might say something, but I wouldn't put too much weight on the fact that she does.
Uh-huh. Do you do anything that is acrobatic in any way, Mrs. Ray?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Niven.
Well, it's my experience watching this show that people are never quite what they look like. Do you have anything to do with animals?
No.
That's 3 down and 7 to go. Miss Kilgallen.
May we eliminate the fact that you are a member of the panel of the Canadian What's My Line?
Yes.
You know, they're just tricky enough to do that twice in a row. You don't do anything acrobatic. Do you make any noise at all that is apart from singing?
No.
That makes it 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Ray, does that mean then that that emphatic no to Dorothy mean that you do some singing?
No.
That's 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Francis.
She sometimes says something, but only under duress, I guess. Do you wear a kind of costume rather than just an evening dress when you're performing?
Yes.
Does this costume protect you from anything in any way?
No.
6 down and 4 to
It's a
go.
very small costume.
The taciturn Mr. Niven.
Are you performing usually alone?
No.
7 down and 3 to go.
I'm
Miss-
going home.
7 down and Miss Kilgallen.
Are you performing with other ladies rather than men?
No.
8 down and 2 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Well, do you do something that could be roughly called either a adagio dance or something where you're flung about by various men in the company?
No.
Not flung?
9 down and 1 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you have anything to do with a musical instrument?
No.
10 down and no more to go. Mrs. Ray is the target in a knife-throwing act. The professional name of the team is Del Rio and Rosita.
That's it, yes.
And Mrs. Ray's partner in the act is her husband.
And I know the word that she says when she speaks once in a while. It's ouch!
Have you ever been pinked, so to speak?
Well, yes, but it was an accident, you know, this sort of accident. It wasn't my husband's fault, it was circumstances.
That wonderful picture of you leaving the theater, going to the doctor and say, pull this out, will you have a little accident? Well, we had a wonderful time with your visit. Thanks for being our guest on What's My Line. By the way, Mrs. Ray is the target for such nice things as bayonets, axes, flaming axes, as a matter of fact, and ice picks. It's an interesting way to live, isn't it? Now, would we have a next challenger, please, and see if we can't give the panel another rocker here. Okay. Would you sign in right there, please? Helen Corwin. That's right. Miss or Mrs.?
Miss.
Mrs. Corwin, where are you from?
Blythe, California.
Blythe, California. It's nice to have you with us. Mrs. Corwin, may I present the panel? Panel, Mrs. Corwin, will you join me here? That's a lovely orchid you have there, I must
Thank
say. Now, Mrs. Corwin, you know how we keep score?
Yes, I do.
All right, then let's let people in the theater audience and those at home know exactly what your line is. Panel, Mrs. Corwin is self-employed, and let's begin the questioning this time with Arlene Francis.
Mrs. Corwin, is there a product connected with what you do?
Yes.
Is it a product that one might find in a home?
Yes.
Is it decorative in any way?
Very. Some of
Very?
them.
Yes, and here again, with Mrs. Cohen's permission, I would say that if it were found in the home, we would have to consider that it would be decorative.
Is the product made of cloth?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Niven.
Blythe, California being rather a warm spot,
Yes.
does your product have anything to do with that fact?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, and congratulations, David, Miss Kilgallen.
Is this something that is or ever has been alive?
Yes.
Is it found outside of the home quite often, too?
Yes.
If any of us on the panel owned one of these things, could we keep it out of doors as well as indoors?
Yes.
You could. Now, I would say this again, with Mrs. Cohen's permission. If you kept it outdoors and made no effort to give it any kind of protection, it would deteriorate, subject, of course, as most things of matter are, to the elements.
You know we wouldn't do that, John.
No,
All right, let's say we had it indoors. If living in New York, I had one of these things, do you think that people who came to visit me would be liable to comment on it more than...
Would you repeat that question?
Well, as you know, I live in New York. As a city dweller in the East, if I had a visitor to my home and one of these things that is your product was visible in the living room, would the visitor be likely to comment on this?
Oh, yes.
It would be more noticeable than just an ashtray.
Oh, yes.
All right, does this thing move around at all?
No.
Let us say this. I think it's fair to say that under certain circumstances, it's reasonable to expect that this thing might move around a bit.
Well, do most of your customers get these things when they're alive?
No. 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Cohen, in other words, then, you deal with animals after they have...
No, now, Sid Bennett, I want to clarify here because you're being misled. The question, as Dorothy put it, was, has this thing, is it alive or has it ever been? Now, to the degree that it's made up of materials which at one time or another have been a part of some living organism, then we would have to say yes. But here again, don't put too much weight to it.
Are you trying to tell me, John, being nice to me, that
Don't ever make that accusation.
only some component part of this thing was alive at one time?
Well, what we meant to convey to you, and the question as we got it, is that some of the, or all, or a part of the element in the thing, which is hereinto and after to be known as the product, could have at one time have been alive.
Mrs. Cohen, would this product, in the shape in which you produce it or ship it, have any educational value?
Direct educational value, I would say that Mrs. Cohen, agreeing with me, its purpose would not be to educate.
I was thinking of ant houses. Or
Ant houses, no. 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
It is not alive, but it moves. That's very nerve-wracking. Would you say that this is solely for decoration of some kind, that it is not useful?
No, I wouldn't say that.
5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Niven. I'm going to give you 1 more minute because...
Everybody's been sounding like the Encyclopedia Britannica except me. He's sounding like an idiot for the last 20 minutes. Would this product benefit me?
Could.
Possibly.
It would.
Could.
I have an elderly aunt who dislikes me intensely. Would it benefit her?
How old is your aunt?
She's not around.
She's not around. Now, I can't see any way it would help them. That's 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Could I hold this in my hand?
Yes.
All right. Would it be more likely that I would buy this thing if I were someone other than me?
Yeah.
Very possibly.
Then this is an object which is more useful to someone west of the Mississippi, perhaps? Or in another profession?
I couldn't say that.
No, but I will give this much if you're willing. This is an object which is perhaps more used west of the Mississippi.
Spurs. All right.
Road map of California.
Well, Mrs. Corwin, if I had this, and I were living west of the Mississippi, would I carry it about with me? Would that be a logical thing to do
You
with
mean
it?
as a normal part of your daily routine?
Well, as part of any adventure, even. Would there be any
Well-
point to carrying it around?
For instance, if you were out there and going somewhere about it, would you carry this with you if you went to some kind of an entertainment or a meeting or something
Or
like
the
that?
supermarket?
Or a supermarket, thank you.
No.
That's 7 down and 3 to go. You want to take a shot at it, Bennett?
No, I just wondered if this could ever be eaten.
No, I'm going to throw them all over. Stand up. Actually, Mrs. Corwin makes saddles.
I just...
Very fine saddles. Beautiful saddles. And by the way, has tied as the all-around cowgirl at rodeos, so that she knows how to use these lovely, wonderful saddles that she makes. That was a tough one, panel. Congratulations to you, Mrs. Corwin. Thanks very much for being our guest. Wonderful to have you with us. You so good luck. And now we'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment. But first, here is a word from our sponsor. Now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which I ask my friends on the panel to blindfold themselves. Blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yeah, we couldn't get anything
Good.
unblindfolded.
Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise, and we begin with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Do you sing professionally?
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Are you a professional entertainer of one sort or another?
But of course.
Miss Francis?
Have you been in pictures?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Niven?
Are you in a picture now running on Broadway?
Mm-hmm.
No?
Miss Kilgallen? Yes, that's a yes, David. Miss
Have you ever
Kilgallen?
been a panelist on What's My Line?
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Is the picture that you're in a drama? I mean the new one.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
That was a no answer.
That's right.
Should we rule out that you are a serious actor then? You are more of a comedian?
Taking the first phrasing of the question, should we rule out you're a serious actor then, the answer is no. 4 down and 6 to go, Mr.
Well,
Niven.
he is a serious
Would you describe yourself as a Hollywood actor rather than a Broadway actor? Yes, for Hollywood.
And 3 cheers for Broadway.
You would then, would you say that you were, was that a no, John?
Has everybody gone?
Was that,
I'm sorry, we
was
found...
that last answer to David a no?
We haven't given it yet, but you guessed it. That's 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Well, it's, I haven't asked anything, John.
No, that was David's no.
Oh, no.
Is he, what was the answer? Is he a Hollywood actor?
No, he's not a Hollywood
Not a
actor,
Hollywood.
primarily. Would you say you are primarily a legitimate stage actor?
Well, taking the previous question as a reference point, the answer would be...
Well, he could be British screen, you know.
Mr.
Yes.
Cerf?
Although you didn't sing in this particular picture, have you ever done any singing professionally before that?
No, Bennett. 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you well known as a theater performer on the New York stage?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Niven?
This picture that is now appearing on Broadway, has it been here less than 3 weeks?
Mm-mm. 7 down and 3 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Oh, David. Oh, do you travel on a United States passport?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Cerf.
Is the picture in which you're appearing one that is only shown, is called hard seats and only shown twice a day, reserved seats?
Mm-mm. 8 down and 2 to go, Miss Francis.
Have you appeared in the theater in New York in the last year? 58, that would be.
Mm-mm. 9 down and 1 to go, Mr. Niven.
The part you play in this picture that has not been on Broadway, that has been on Broadway longer than 3 weeks, did you play the same part on the stage?
Mm-mm. 10 down and no more to go. And take your masks off and meet Mr. Paul Newman. Right. Newman. The wonderful thing about it, the thing we trapped you with, is that Paul has the 2 pictures on Broadway.
Of course.
Yes.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Rally Round the Flag, and happily you got to the second one, the latest picture, so we could deny the drama concept and we could deny a lot of things on that basis.
Dirty trick.
It was a dirty trick, but it came off rather well, don't you think?
You're rehearsing in the new Tennessee Williams play, are you not, Mr. Newman?
Yes. It's
Well,
wonderful.
very good luck with it.
Terribly
I'm sure
exciting.
it will be and you will be.
Oh, I hope so.
Yes.
So this is where we actually, again, in his terms of service, it's been more Broadway than Hollywood, although
Yes.
here he is on Broadway in 2 major pictures now.
Very tricky answers.
But they're very tricky answers, are they? That's what they were good.
Well, I sort of consider myself a New York resident, and that's why,
Well, I remember you in the Desperate Hours, Mr. Newman.
yes.
Well, now, on Sweet Bird of Success, the new Tennessee Williams play.
Sweet Bird of Youth.
Sweet Bird of Youth?
Yes.
Are you producing this? Directing
No,
it?
I'm acting in it.
Acting, but you're not directing or producing.
No, Mr. Kazan is directing.
But have you done any production or direction work?
No, not at all.
Never have done any. Got any idea you'd like to?
Well, I'd like to direct a short film this summer if I get a chance, but that's sort of in the works.
And just in the works.
What is your very talented wife, Miss Joanne Woodward, doing?
She's having a baby, which I think is
that's
probably...
the best production of all.
That's the most creative work you can do, really.
Yes.
Well, Paul, you have come to very great success in these last few months or a couple of years. Where'd you start? You started on...
I started on Broadway in Picnic.
Did you ever do much radio, television?
A lot of live television.
You think that helps a lot to Broadway and Hollywood?
Oh, yes. I just wish they'd bring live television back. I mean, real dramatic shows.
Amen. Amen. We all agree to that, I'm not sure. We all agree to that, for sure. Well, it's been a lot of fun having you. It's been weeks and weeks and months since we puzzled the panel complete with a guest. Thank you for having 2 pictures on Broadway.
I don't know whether that speaks well for my notoriety or my anonymity.
It speaks well for your notoriety. When you have 2 pictures going on Broadway and are getting ready to open in the theater on Broadway, you don't have to worry about your reputation. The public knows all about you. Lots more success, and good to have had you with us.
Thank you, John.
We'll be back after this word from our alternate sponsor. Bennett just read me the score for the panel tonight. Kind of sorry it happened the night before he went away. No hits, no runs, no errors.
I don't think I will go now.
No, you can stay there, David. You stay right there. And it's been good to have you back with us. I must say, it's always fun to have you on the show. And may I say good night, Miss Arlene Francis.
You may. It's the one thing we can say correctly. Good night, John. Good night, David. Lovely to have had you. And good luck with your new series.
Thank you very much, and I wish I had been more used to you all tonight. Good night, Dorothy.
You were marvelous, David. Thank you for coming. Goodbye and bon voyage, Bennett.
Wish we had been better tonight, but you'll be better next week. Good night, John.
Good night. I have such a tough time persuading them that they're wonderful even when they don't get anybody, you know. But I'll make it one of these days. Thanks for being with us on What's My Line?